What's up everyone, and welcome into another Marvel Rivals Hero Guide. Today we're going to look at one of the more unique heroes in Marvel Rivals, and that is Cloak and Dagger. Here in Season 0, Cloak and Dagger are seen as one of the better choices that you could make for a healer on your team by some of the top level players in Marvel Rivals, which means that they're a good character to pick up and learn. So today, let's go ahead and look at all of their abilities, and then see how you can weave back and forth between the two heroes in order to get the most out of them on the battlefield. Cloak and Dagger is one of the game's strategist heroes, meaning their primary function is to be a healer. They have 250 health, putting them in line with the typical strategist health pools, and move at 6 meters per second, just like almost every other hero in the game. Cloak and Dagger are labeled in-game as a 3-star hero, which I completely agree with, as swapping between the two heroes will take a little bit of getting used to. Let's begin with Dagger's abilities. Dagger's left click is called the Light Force Dagger, which shoots bouncing daggers that can hurt enemies and heal teammates. They deal 15 damage to an enemy per hit, or heal 10 damage off of an ally. When you hit an enemy or an ally, the dagger also creates an area of effect heal, which heals anyone in its radius for 18 HP. The Light Force Dagger has 12 ammo. Dagger's right click is called the Dagger Storm, which is shot out and then creates a healing field wherever it lands. The field lasts for 6 seconds and heals anyone inside the bubble for 55 HP per second. Dagger Storm is on a 15-second cooldown. Dagger's E ability is the Veil of Light Force. When cast, it creates a wall of healing that shoots out in front of you and travels for 25 meters. Any ally hit with this attack is healed instantly for 45 HP, and it also applies a buff that grants 15% extra healing from all other healing sources for the next 4 seconds. This ability has a 12-second cooldown. Dagger's shift ability is called the Shadow's Embrace. When used, Dagger switches over to Cloak. This ability has no cooldown, although the transformation does take a brief moment. And with that, let's shift over to Cloak. Similarly, Cloak's shift ability is called Light's Embrace and lets him shift back into Dagger. Cloak's left click is called the Dark Force Cloak, which locks onto a target and deals 75 damage per second. This attack has a 20-meter range, short in general, but pretty long for a lock-on, infinite ammo, and never has to be reloaded. His right-click ability is called Dark Teleportation, which allows Cloak to float in the air. While using this effect, Cloak and his allies in a 10-meter radius gain invisibility, a movement boost, and cannot take damage. This ability has a 12-second cooldown. Cloak's E ability is called the Terror Cape. This ability creates a darkness field that shoots out in front of you and goes for 25 meters. When hitting an enemy, this ability applies 2 debuffs. The first is a blinding effect that restricts visibility beyond 10 meters and lasts for 1.5 seconds. The second debuff is vulnerability, which makes enemies take an additional 20% damage from all damage sources for 3 seconds. Cloak and Dagger's ultimate is the Eternal Bond. When used, the duo performs 3 dashes, which create massive spell fields of light and darkness. Each field deals 30 damage per second to enemies and heals allies for 220 HP per second, with each spell field lasting for 5 seconds. Cloak and Dagger currently don't have any team-up abilities, but they do give Moon Knight an invisibility field when teamed up with him. Now that we understand how Cloak and Dagger's abilities work, let's talk some strategies so we can best utilize both characters on the battlefield. Daggers home in on enemies and aggressively home in on your allies, homing in to whichever is closest to your aiming reticle. Your aim does not need to be remotely accurate in order to be useful, which is great news for me. With healing specifically, your daggers will even home in on an ally after bouncing off of a surface. This allows you to do some neat trick shots to heal allies that may be out of your line of sight. The area of effect produced when Dagger hits a target is sizable. This means the dagger can heal multiple targets at the same time, she can self-heal herself if she's close enough to her team, and she can even heal herself if an enemy flanker is on top of her. Due to the properties of her basic heal, Dagger can be a solid choice on a team with high movement or flanking heroes, or just get in a ton of healing on a team that's grouped up together. While Dagger's burst healing isn't the strongest, her healing abilities are all stackable. Drop a healing field for healing over time, hit your team with a light wall for that healing boost, and then continue throwing daggers. This sustained healing should do a good job of keeping your team healthy. Because of the area of effect healing on your dagger hits, in close-up team fights, you can swap between directly healing your allies or dealing a little damage to your opponents and letting your allies heal via the AoE healing. If enemy flankers are giving you trouble, save your dagger field for yourself. When they arrive, drop the healing bubble at your feet and then heal more as you hit them with your healing daggers. While your HUD doesn't tell you this, you can also swap between Cloak and Dagger by scrolling your scroll wheel. Both options work exactly the same, so just choose whichever option feels better to you. Despite having similar moves, Cloak and Dagger's abilities have separate cooldowns. Even when focused on healing as Dagger, get into the rhythm of swapping to Cloak, throwing a terror cape at the enemy team for that damage boost, then swapping back to Dagger for healing. When on one hero, you are able to see the other hero's abilities on your HUD if these abilities are currently on cooldown. Paying attention to this will save you a ton of guesswork on when you can swap between the two heroes to use the other's abilities. Cloak's Dark Teleportation has a ton of versatility. As the duo's only movement tech, it can be used to reposition yourself to an out-of-reach ledge. It can also be held in your back pocket to try to escape an enemy flanker. But most importantly, it can be used to shield your team from an enemy ultimate. With proper timing, you can shield your team from an Iron Man Pulse, a Magneto Blast, a Scarlet Witch Explosion, Jeff's Mouth, and the list goes on. Cloak and Dagger's ultimate also has tremendous versatility. Each of the 3 dashes can be aimed. This allows you to create a large area in order to cover an entire capture point, go in a straight line to help begin a push for your team, and can even be stacked. All 3 fields stacked on top of each other will deal 90 damage per second to enemies and heal for 660 HP per second. With those numbers, your team can survive ultimates from characters such as Hela or Spider-Man, whose damage applies over time rather than in a burst. While Cloak and Dagger is a very powerful strategist, it's also important to recognize their limitations so you know how to avoid mistakes on the battlefield or know when to swap heroes entirely. The most important reminder when playing Cloak and Dagger is that you are a healer first and foremost. Don't let the temptation of having higher damage with Cloak take over. You will lose duels with full health flankers and Vanguard heroes. Spend most of your time healing as Dagger. If you really want to frag out against the enemy team, just play a duelist. The best times to use Cloak's extra damage are when trying to catch a low health target, when making an aggressive push with your ultimate, or in a high healing ultimate like Luna Snow's. While this one's not your fault, Cloak and Dagger's ultimate just really doesn't look like it provides a ton of healing. As people are still learning the game here in Season 0, you may lose out on a lot of utility as your teammates don't stand in the big shadow fields. Other than Cloak's Cloak, the duo really don't have any sort of movement options. This means it can be hard to escape aggressive flanking, and there's nothing you can do to speed up a long walk back from the spawn. Outside of their ultimate, Cloak and Dagger are lacking in that true burst healing potential that's found in healers such as Adam Warlock. And Dagger's right click and E heals come with pretty sizable cooldowns. Keeping a low health Vanguard alive may be difficult unless you're willing to pop all of Dagger's cooldowns. In fact, the trade-off of having so many abilities between the two heroes is that all of their cooldowns have long timers. This means you can really be punished for using your abilities at the wrong time. While swapping between Cloak and Dagger is instant, remember that the transformation takes a moment as well. Make sure your swaps are planned and deliberate, or else you risk missing out on crucial healing. As hard as you try, you can't always save your team. Cloak's Dark Teleportation only keeps allies hidden if they don't shoot or reload while they're inside it, which there's really nothing you can do about, especially if you're not on voice chat with your team to inform them not to shoot. With having 2 sets of abilities, muscle memory while learning Cloak and Dagger can be a little bit difficult. You will definitely have moments where you swap heroes by mistake or panic yourself into a KO. Fortunately, this should get better with time. And that should be everything you need to know to really run away with Cloak and Dagger. This is my 3rd Marvel Rivals hero guide, and I also have guides for Penny Parker or Jeff the Landshark if you're interested in learning those characters as well. And I also plan on making guides for every hero in Marvel Rivals, so if there's a hero that you want to see first, just let me know and I may make them a priority. And of course, thank you so much for making it here to the end of the video. By being here, you're the real superhero. If you liked this video, maybe consider giving it a like, or perhaps even subscribing to the channel for all the content that I have coming at you in the future. Other than that, thank you so much, have a marvelous day, and I'll see you next time.